diabetes and hypertension treatment guidelines in Kenya, they are sponsored by the big pharma. The same companies that produce drugs for diabetes, drugs for hypertension, are the same companies that are sponsoring guidelines for diabetes and hypertension in Kenya. I don't know about your country, but I'm talking about Kenya. So you tell me, how do you expect to survive from these conditions? How? How do you expect to survive from diabetes when the company that is sponsoring guidelines for diabetes is actually a company that makes diabetes drugs? How do you expect your nutritionist to tell you what foods are healthy for you when she's following or he's following guidelines that are coming from the food industry? How? Look at people at those coffee houses, seated there with the dawa. They're drinking the dawa, and the dawa is actually a concoction. For those of you who don't know, who are non-Kenyans, dawa is a very famous concoction that contains ginger, garlic, lemons, and all these concoctions of these spices. And then the weird part is that dawa is served with honey. You tell them, no, I don't take sugar. They bring you honey faithfully, or stevia. And now you're seated there with your pot belly, trying to drink these concoctions for the next 2 hours. And you go there again tomorrow, take the same honey. Some of you tell me, I like sugarless black coffee. Then when I invite you on a date, I give you sugarless black coffee. You're like, ay, daktari, ay, not even stevia. Yeah? And then you're there on a date with your black coffee. You're adding 6 spoons of sugar. And I'm wondering, are you taking coffee in sugar or are you taking sugar in coffee? Which is which? But you come out very excited. The coffee was nice. No, the coffee was not nice. The sugar in coffee is the one that gave you a fake high and you thought that coffee was nice. Tomorrow you're there adding another 6 spoonfuls of sugar in that coffee. You don't love coffee. You are an addict of sugar in coffee. You just use coffee as a carrier. You will one day admit. So all this is being taken to the liver. And now remember this. Fructose is a very dangerous sugar. Remember, it's the second sweetest thing on this planet. And the food industries woke up so early. They knew for you to be hooked on their foods, they have to add in sugar without putting on the label. So what do? They add sugar in those things in form of fructose, and then they make you so addicted to them. You think that food is so nice, it's so exciting, and these guys know how to cook food. No, they added sugar that gave you the dopamine hits, and you got addicted to their foods. Start thinking. And now you keep on going to the same area to take that dawa. You're wondering, you're even adding more weight after taking 4 months of dawa every evening with honey. They serve you honey in a very good glass so that you feel that, hey, honey is the natural sugar. Now listen, your body does not understand natural or synthetic sugar. Your body will absorb either fructose or glucose. It doesn't even know you added sugar in your tea. It just knows you took glucose or fructose or sucrose, and it will process it as that sugar. Not as natural, or if you eat sugarcane. And by the way, I had an experience with people from Lavington in Nairobi. This one I have to say it. In the morning, they are busy running. Very good. But there's a joint, and I know if you've passed through those areas of Lavington, you know there's a joint where there's one gentleman with several carts, mikokoteni, full of sugarcane, and he's busy making sugarcane juice. And after you've ran your race, now it's time for you to just rejuvenate and relax. You go into this gentleman and he serves you this sugarcane juice. Nowadays, they add in ginger so that it looks organic. Now you take your sugarcane juice straight from Kisii. Sugarcane straight from Kisii or straight from Mumias in Western. Now you take your sugarcane juice that has been added more honey. And now you're that guy. Imagine I wake up in the morning, I run. After I run, I come and take my sugarcane juice, 1 glass, and I go to work. You did zero work. Sugarcane juice is rich in fructose. It's rich in fructose. You should see those guys. And they wonder, why have I been running 6 months straight and have not lost a kg? But you've been feeding it because fructose lies to you. Now, your cells don't know how to utilize fructose. At least these fat cells, these muscle cells, and these liver cells can store or utilize glucose. But all cells don't know how to utilize fructose. Hello? All cells don't know how to utilize fructose. So fructose, once you absorb it from your gut, what happens is it is carried all the way to the liver. Now you start straining that liver from that moment. So you carry it all the way to the liver. And what are you doing to the liver? This fructose is converted to triglycerides, the fats. Hey, cheers, my people. The only sugar that is only processed by the liver and is converted to triglycerides, these are what we call fats. Now, don't confuse triglycerides with cholesterol. No, that's the mistake. Triglyceride is something different. These are fats that are coming from fruits, from honey, from processed foods, from that sugar cane. So as you think you're eating natural sugar, it ended up in your liver and it was converted to fats. Now, at least glucose is pumped into the cells and then utilized, and then excess of it is now converted to fat. So at least that one we can understand. But this one, direct from the gut into the liver, converted to triglycerides, and now the liver pumps it into the system, and now you start having high triglycerides in your blood, and now you start blaming cholesterol. When you go to the hospital and you're told that cholesterol is a problem, the LDL are going up, I always ask you, if LDL are up, give me the ratio between LDL and triglycerides, because if that ratio is up, and then I know you are in trouble. But if LDL is up and HDL is down, that is an indicator of inflammation. Now, the liver makes something in your system. The liver cannot make things that will hurt you. The liver makes cholesterol. The liver makes cholesterol. So even if you struggle to drop cholesterol foods, your liver will still make cholesterol. It will still make cholesterol. But for these fats, you have to get them from the diet. The liver does not make triglycerides. The liver converts fructose to triglycerides. That's a metabolic pathway. And then these fats, the liver does not know how to store fats. Because if they accumulate in the liver, that's what we call a fatty liver disease. Now remember, fatty liver disease is not a disease as such. It's not defected cells. They are not pathological. These cells are just carrying fat. There's a lot of fat in them. And it's very reversible. So when you're diagnosed with a fatty liver disease, there is always hope. It's not the end of the world. If they put you on medications, they're actually making it worse for you. They are actually making it worse for you. So take a second. Let's think. Let's think. So as you eat that fruit, you get to absorb fructose. It's taken to the liver, converted to fats. Those fats start accumulating in the liver slowly, but carefully. Slowly and gradually. And now you end up accumulating a lot of fat in the liver. And now you have a fatty liver. You are diagnosed with a fatty liver disease. Now, this is to the people who I call toffees. They're thin from outside, but fat from inside. These are the people who look very lean from outside, but they are still diagnosed with a fatty liver disease. Where am I getting it from? You have your answer now. So therefore, you can be zero in obesity, but with a very fatty liver. You can be zero, you can be very lean and in a very normal BMI. That's why I tell you, BMI is nothing. You can have that liver very fatty, but you look very lean from outside. And then you're just telling me, how did I end up getting a fatty liver when I'm lean? But you've been taking this sugarcane juice every morning after you've ran. But you've been consuming the fruits thinking that they are healthy. So what makes you think fruits are healthy when now you're accumulating fats in the liver? So there are two types of the fatty liver disease. One is the alcoholic. That one is directly linked to the alcohol, because alcohol will be converted to fats and those fats will accumulate in the liver, and that's a problem. But this other one, which is the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, that is in common in most people. By the way, most of you have a fatty liver, but you just don't know. You just don't have an idea. Why? Because if you tell me what you've been eating, of course, you'll never miss a fruit on this one. So if you tell me what you've been eating, I'm already thinking, this one has a problem. Why do you have a common flu every other time when you're lean? Why are you always in hospitals with hormonal imbalances? Why are you having painful menstruation when you're that thin? Why? Why are you having infertility when your body looks very lean? Why are men having erectile dysfunction when they are built and they are lean? Why are we having dry eyes? Why are we having very, very bad skin? Why are we having our hairs falling off? Why do we have very low immunity and everybody's on antibiotics every other time? Because your liver is the one that makes the immune cells. The liver is the one that synthesizes all these things that are supposed to help you build your system and rebuild your system, including cholesterol. Somebody's asking me, should we avoid fruits? How long have you been on this live already? Because if you've been on this live when I was explaining how fruits end up giving you a fatty liver, you wouldn't be asking such a question. You wouldn't ask such a question because that's ignorance. Okay, that's ignorance. Fruits were designed to be seasonal. They were designed to have fruit seeds. They were designed to have fiber. I remember when we were growing up, if you ate a mango, you will struggle the whole afternoon to just get the fibers off your teeth. You will struggle. You would eat that mango but struggle with those fibers. But nowadays, you cut a mango and it's so juicy, and then you end up juicing it. You're just taking fructose. Taking fructose all the time. You're wondering why you have all these thyroid issues, and yet you've not fixed the liver. So the liver will fix you if you fix it. But we'll talk about how to fix the liver. So anytime you have a fatty liver disease, I'm asking, what is your breakfast table? Look at the breakfast table that people eat. The cereal that you add in mix, you mix cereal and milk. All carbohydrates. The bread, the cakes, the biscuits. These are the foods that you're eating all the time. All carbohydrates and refined carbohydrates. And then you add sugar in it. Look at that. Now start wondering, where am I getting all these issues from? All that is glucose that is being pumped into the liver. And the liver now decides, where should I take this? If this guy gentleman works out a lot, let me give to the muscle cells for activity. If this gentleman is the one who just sits down, let me change it into fats and store it in the fat cells. And as you eat those carbohydrates, you end up getting a systemic inflammation because sugar is highly inflammatory. Sugar binds to the red blood cells and makes them very sluggish and very sticky, including your immune system. Your immune cells, the white blood cells. When sugar binds to the white blood cells, they are so sticky and so sluggish. They will not even reach where they're supposed to reach. That's why diabetics have a problem with wounds. When you have a wound, you cannot heal because one, that wound is rich in sugar. And that is a substrate for bacteria growth. Number two, that wound, there is no way there's no way the white blood cells will reach there because they are attached to sugar and they are sluggish. So they are very slow. And again, sugar clogs your arteries. Because when the red blood cells are very sticky and they stick on the blood vessel wall, they start attracting other cells and they form a mass in your blood vessels. When they form that mass, which you call the arteriosclerosis, you have limited supply of glucose, limited supply of oxygen and nutrients towards your extremities and all these organs. And guess what is happening? You start having problems. When you get a wound on that leg, the next thing is amputation. And the weird part is when people are having diabetes, when people are having these fatty liver diseases, the first thing they are told is, number one, avoid poultry. Don't eat chicken plus the skin because the skin is rich in cholesterol. The cholesterol is the one that made you have a fatty liver. Lie. You're told to avoid alcohol. Check, that is true. You're told to avoid saturated fats, the animal fats. Lies. Because these animal fats are not even taken to the liver. They're absorbed through the lymphatic system and they're carried all the way to the fat cells. They will not clog your arteries. The ghee, the butter, the tallow, the coconut oil, they cannot clog your arteries. Why? Because they are not absorbed into the blood vessels. They're absorbed into the lymphatic system. So when your doctor is seated there telling you confidently that this cholesterol-rich foods will clog your arteries, ask him, where are fats absorbed in? Or where are fats going after absorption? Just sit back and see how your doctor sat near the window in a biochemistry class. They sat near a window. They still think fats are going to clog your arteries just because when you look at a plate and you're eating the fats, the animal fats, they solidify on the plate. They are thinking this is the same thing that is going to happen in your blood vessels. How much of a layman that doctor can be to think that way? Because in your small intestines, you have the bile. And the work of bile is to break down that fat, to make it soluble, to combine it with fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, for you to absorb it into the lymphatic system. They are not absorbed into the bloodstream. So then how do they end up clogging arteries when they are not absorbed in the blood vessels? It is annoying to hear some of these things. And now you're told to avoid animal fats, to avoid the chicken skin, to avoid the eggs. But you're still diabetic. But you're still obese. You're not losing weight. Yeah, after you need fat to burn fat. You're told to avoid fats, but you're not losing weight after avoiding the fats. Your cholesterol levels are still misbehaving because now the liver has to compensate. It has to make more cholesterol for different reasons. If you've not seen my video on cholesterol and the side effects of atorvastatin, make an effort to see that video. It is going to explain to you how and why you need cholesterol. why you should drop those drugs for cholesterol, the drugs that lower cholesterol, the atorvastatins, the fenofibrates. Why you should drop them? Because they block the synthesis of cholesterol in the liver. But the liver cannot make something that hurts you. It is actually making that to bring in the fixing aspect. Because cholesterol is used to fix inflammation in the system. So when you eat seed oils, when you eat sugar, when you eat wheat products and the processed carbohydrates, the refined things, those products, I call them products because they're not foods. When you eat them, they cause systemic inflammation. When they cause systemic inflammation, now the liver has to send cholesterol all over to those inflamed sites to go and fix the problem. And now you end up blaming cholesterol. You go ahead and break or drop the cholesterol-rich foods. But you still realize your cholesterol levels are going up. Why? Because the liver is making even more because you're not bringing in the raw materials. So you drop the eggs, you drop the fish, you drop the saturated fats, you drop the red meat, the fatty meats, you eat the lean meats and 2 pieces every week. And then you go back to your doctor, you've been doing all this. And the weird part is, you guys don't ask these questions. Imagine you're at your doctor's, you just drop the foods that he told you to drop. And your cholesterols from the lab are misbehaving still. Why don't you ask your doctor, hey, Daktari, I thought when I drop these foods, my cholesterol is supposed to go down. Why is it still in the roof? Why? Why don't you ask these doctors these questions? This is the point. We have made it impossible for you to ask us questions. The reason why we slap you with medical jargons, and that's the reason why I don't like using medical jargons. The reason why we slap you with medical jargons is because we want to remain relevant and we want to maintain the monopoly. When I maintain the monopoly of information, the health information, you are my slave. You are my slave. Anytime I maintain the monopoly of health information, you become my slave. You have a right to know this information. You do have a right to know this information. And just because I went through a medical school does not mean I have been confined. There's a special knowledge that has put on my head. No, there's nothing special. Remember, it's your body that is talking to you. You're just telling me the symptoms of your body. So I'm relying on the symptoms to actually guess what disease you're suffering from. That's why I send you to the lab to confirm my doubts. And in my head, I'm full of guidelines, forgetting that these guidelines are coming from the big pharma. You look up, when you read the diabetes guidelines in Kenya, diabetes and hypertension treatment guidelines in Kenya, they are sponsored by the big pharma. The same companies that produce drugs for diabetes, drugs for hypertension, are the same companies that are sponsoring guidelines for diabetes and hypertension in Kenya. I don't know about your country, but I'm talking about Kenya. So you tell me, how do you expect to survive from these conditions? How? How do you expect to survive from diabetes when the company that is sponsoring guidelines for diabetes is actually a company that makes diabetes drugs? How do you expect your nutritionist to tell you what foods are healthy for you when she's following or he's following guidelines that are coming from the food industry? How? They actually want you to continue eating those foods and still come back because remember, these are just one thing. The media, the food industry, the big pharma, they're in business, just one team. They're just one team. So when you look at that advert on that TV, simply look at it and give yourself 7 months. When you look at on Facebook or Instagram and you see a post from your favorite TV station, be very careful when you want to consume that information. Why? Because they put that information out there to see where the public is. Your comments are very necessary for them. The more the comments, the more the traffic towards their channels, the better for them. They survive in business. And they do that intentionally. They just pull a research somewhere and they put it on Facebook and they say, red meat causes cancer. Experts have said. Experts from Harvard University have said red meat causes cancer. They put it there. Now, every single one of you is running on those on those platforms to comment. Hey, Dr. Lewis said this. You're tagging me in those posts. I'm like, I did not teach you this way. You can do better.